All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Think about this for a second. Every single day, your brain is hit with an absolute avalanche of data. Sights, sounds, conversations, minor details. And it has to make a constant, split-second decision. What do we keep and what do we throw away? At the absolute epicenter of this mystery is the hippocampus. You can think of it as your brain's master sorter. It's completely responsible for our episodic memory, our ability to remember the specific sequence of events that actually make up our lives. But how in the world does it manage such an overwhelming task? Well, let's be real for a minute. You almost certainly remember exactly what you had for breakfast today, right? But ask yourself, are you going to remember that exact same bowl of cereal 3 months from now? Probably not. It's just going to fade away. Yet, if you won the lottery today, no way you'd forget that. That is a memory that would stay crystal clear for the rest of your life. And this perfectly highlights the core premise we're exploring here. You actually have an incredibly sophisticated internal selection system. Your brain effortlessly knows how to distinguish between totally mundane, everyday moments and massive, life-altering events. So your brain basically has two completely distinct modes of operation to handle all this. During your waking hours, your hippocampus acts like a tireless cartographer. It's just actively recording experiences, tracking where things happen, and building this rich, dynamic internal cognitive map of your environment. But when you go to sleep, everything changes. The sensory inputs totally quiet down, and the hippocampus shifts entirely into an offline mode. And in this mode, its main job is to literally replay specific experiences from the day you just had.
Which brings us to Section 1, the mechanics of sleep replay, or fast-forwarding your day.
When your brain actually sits down to review these events offline, it uses this highly specific neural pattern called a sharp wave ripple. And it's basically a rapid four-step sequence. First, this massive tide of synchronized input arrives, awakening countless quiet neurons all at once. Second, inhibitory cells instantly spring into action, acting as date keepers, just to prevent a complete system overload. Third, this creates a fierce neural competition. All your experiences from the day are essentially fighting for attention, but only the absolute strongest neural patterns, which are usually your most significant events, win the right to actually be replayed. And finally, the winning memories undergo this intense temporal compression. Listen to this. What originally took seconds or even minutes of real-life behavior is compressed down into just 100 milliseconds. Your brain watches the day's highlight reel on extreme fast-forward, firing it right up to the neocortex, that's the brain's outer layer, for permanent storage, a process scientists call consolidation. But here is where things get weird. Section 2, the plot twist, the awake bookmark mystery.
Researchers actually hit a massive scientific wall when they started observing these exact same sharp wave ripples firing while subjects were wide awake, usually just during brief moments of resting. And this completely broke the expected rules. I mean, think about it. If the whole point of replaying memories is to permanently store them in the neocortex, why on earth would your brain do it while you're awake? The neocortex is super busy processing the active waking world. It is fundamentally not ready to receive and store compressed memories until you are deeply asleep. Plus, these awake ripples happen way too infrequently to properly consolidate a memory anyway. So researchers were left scratching their heads. Why do they happen at all?
Let's look at Section 3, decoding a neural symphony, the interrogation tool.
To finally figure this out, scientists decided to watch memories form in real time. They had mice run this figure-8 maze, alternating left and right arms to get a reward, which perfectly engages episodic memory. But as the mice ran, the researchers didn't just record 1 or 2 cells in the hippocampus. No, they recorded 400 individual neurons simultaneously. Just imagine trying to listen to an orchestra with 400 different instruments playing at the exact same time, and you're trying to pinpoint one single subtle melody. Every millisecond creates this wildly complex symphony of neural firing that is just completely impossible for the human eye to interpret.
Now, to make any sense of this 400-dimensional data storm, we have to talk about a concept called a manifold. Because even though you have 400 neurons firing, they aren't just firing completely at random. Their activity is actually heavily constrained by how they're physically connected to one another. Think of it kind of like a complex, choreographed dance. A dancer could, theoretically, run absolutely anywhere in the room, but the choreography restricts their movements to very specific, coordinated patterns. Well, in the brain, this means neural activity is actually confined to a specific, structured shape hidden inside the data, and that shape is known as a manifold.
And this is where scientists applied a brilliant mathematical technique called UMAP to solve this huge 400-dimension problem. You can think of UMAP kind of like carefully taking a really intricate piece of origami and unfolding it until you reveal the flat piece of paper underneath.
UMAP takes that massive 400-dimensional neural symphony and effectively flattens it down into just 3 dimensions, something we can actually visualize and understand. When researchers actually ran this UMAP technique on the mouse data, the results were honestly mind-blowing. The neural data clustered into a looped structure that perfectly mirrored the physical figure-8 maze. Basically, UMAP mapped the exact physical shape of the maze purely from reading the brain activity, without even knowing where the mouse actually was. It also showed these super clear trajectories as the mice learned the maze over time. This gave scientists a highly specialized decoding tool. Now they could look at any random flash of brain activity and know exactly what physical location and memory the mouse was recalling in that exact moment.
So, applying this powerful UMAP tool led to a major breakthrough. When they decoded those mysterious awake ripples, the ones that happen right after the mouse pauses to eat its reward, they found something truly amazing. The awake ripples were highly compressed replays of the exact successful path the mouse had literally just run. And here's the real kicker. When the mouse later went to sleep, the sleep ripples were strikingly similar. They were replaying the exact same successful path that had fired during the awake ripples earlier that day. All right, Section 4. Case closed. The 2-stage memory process.
This discovery completely resolves the mystery. Awake ripples aren't actually trying to store the memory permanently right then and there. Instead, as the research beautifully concludes, awake replays simply serve as memory bookmarks. When you experience something significant, the awake ripple doesn't consolidate the memory, it just triggers local synaptic changes right there in the hippocampus. It physically tags the event. It's essentially like folding the corner of a page in a book, so your brain knows exactly what to look for and what to save when you finally go to sleep. So, looking at the grand picture, we have this beautifully elegant 2-stage memory process. During the day, your hippocampus is just working overtime, tracking all your experiences. When something important happens, boom, an awake ripple fires to place a temporary bookmark on that exact neural pattern. Later, when you sleep, your neocortex enters the perfect receptive state. The hippocampus hunts down those folded pages, those bookmarks, reactivates those specific patterns, and transfers them over for permanent lifelong consolidation. This entire process just perfectly highlights why direct experience, followed immediately by high-quality sleep, is literally the ultimate learning hack. You can go out and experience amazing, completely life-changing things during the day, and your brain will bookmark them perfectly. But without sleep, your neocortex never gets the chance to open those bookmarks and actually make them permanent. So I'll leave you with this thought. Knowing that your brain has already neatly bookmarked the absolute most important moments of your day today, are you going to give it the offline sleep time it desperately needs to save them forever?